At my nephew's birthday, I said can't wait for the big family dinner tomorrow. My cousin laughed, "You don't know? That was yesterday." My aunt showed me photos, and my sister said, "Maybe take the hint." I stayed quiet, but what I did next wiped the smiles off their faces. Hey, I'm Eli, I'm 33. I've always been the kind of guy who remembers your birthday, brings a gift, and sticks around to help clean up, even if the mess isn't mine. My family? Well, they don't exactly make it easy on me. I'm not the black sheep, just kind of invisible. I'm not the loud or dramatic type, and I've never had a big fight with anyone, but over the years, I've felt myself being pushed to the sidelines, quietly. It's the little things, group chats I'm not in on, jokes I don't get, family photos I'm not in even though I was totally there. I used to brush it off, thinking they just forgot. It wasn't personal, right? I held onto that way longer than I should have, hoping that if I kept showing up and being nice, they'd eventually notice me again. The worst part about being left out quietly is that it gives people an easy out. They don't have to say you're not wanted, they just make you stop expecting a call. So, last month, I was at my nephew Liam's 7th birthday party. He's my sister's kid, and I brought him this cool Lego Star Wars set he'd been dying for. I even helped him build it. I stayed after the party, helping with the dishes while my sister was on her phone. Everything seemed chill, like maybe things were getting better. So, I casually mentioned that I couldn't wait for the family dinner tomorrow, eager to catch up with everyone. My cousin Tara just froze, mid-cake bite, then started laughing. "Wait, you don't know? That was yesterday." My heart sank. I glanced over at my aunt, half hoping it was a joke. Nope. She whipped out her phone and showed me photos of this big setup in my parents' backyard. Fairy lights, champagne, everyone dressed up, even family I barely see was there. It was the big summer family dinner. My aunt starts swiping through the photos, pointing out moments like they were vacation pics. She even mentioned Mom's speech about being surrounded by all her blessings. Stung, I realized too late that maybe this wasn't for my ears. My sister finally looks up from the plate she's drying and mutters, "Maybe take the hint next time." Ouch. I didn't say a thing. I just stood there, stunned, and then walked out, leaving the birthday card and extra gift card I'd got for Liam. On the way home, her words kept replaying in my head. Take the hint. Not angry, just tired. Like I was some outsider who couldn't see the signs. Like I was an annoyance for still thinking I belonged. I'll be honest, I cried in my car. Not my proudest moment, but hey, I'm not ashamed either. It wasn't about missing the dinner. It was about finally getting the picture. I wasn't really part of the family anymore, just an obligation. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there, thinking about all the times I'd shrugged off being left out, like that Christmas dinner that was supposedly just for immediate family, and finding out through photos that it wasn't. The group chats I was never part of, the birthdays they forgot, the jokes I missed out on. But I'm not someone who wants revenge. I don't hold grudges. I just wanted to be done. No more hoping, no more showing up uninvited, no more trying to win a spot at the table. That night, I started making plans. Not revenge exactly, but something permanent that they'd never see coming since they barely notice I'm there. First step? Financial. You see, I've been doing pretty well for myself. I work in IT, and while I'm not rolling in it, I've made some smart investments, especially over the past few years. So, I've been handling property management stuff and nobody really asks about my life, so they have no clue that I now own 3 rental homes. They also don't know that I've been secretly helping my parents with things like roof repairs and plumbing issues by setting up anonymous grants through my LLC. I never needed any credit for it, I just wanted to help them out because, well, they're my parents, or at least they were. Just a week after a birthday party, my mom called me up all panicked because the central air in her house died during the first big heat wave of the year. She told me the repairs would cost over $8,000, and she was shaky. She mentioned the guy I usually work with said there was no maintenance retainer this year. Did something happen with the fund? She asked. I calmly told her I shut down the grant program. She was a bit confused, but I didn't go into details. I just said, "I'm sure you and everyone from the dinner can figure it out." There was silence on her end, and I could almost hear her thoughts racing. I didn't wait for a response, just ended the call politely. That same day, I got in touch with my lawyer. There were other things I'd been funding over the years like college savings for my niece, some emergency dental work for my uncle, and a part-time assistant for my sister's Etsy business. I had all the receipts. None of them knew I had tied these funds to clauses that could be cancelled with a single signature. So, I signed the papers, sent the letters, and froze the accounts. 2 weeks later, the ripple effect hit. My inbox was overflowing with calls, messages, and missed FaceTimes. One from my cousin just said, "What is going on?" But I didn't respond. Then the family group chat blew up, not the one I was excluded from, but the old one that I had created 5 years ago for funeral logistics when Grandpa passed. I still had admin rights. I renamed the chat to maybe take the hint and then removed every member one by one without saying a word. Just silence. But that was just the start. There was still one thing I hadn't taken back, the lake house. Technically, it wasn't fully mine. It used to belong to my grandparents, then my mom and her sister, Aunt Val. After Val passed, her share went to my cousin Tara, who, by the way, had laughed at me for missing a family dinner. Years ago, when Mom fell behind on payments, I quietly bought her share, so legally I owned 50%, but the family never updated their mental scorecard. They treated it like our grandma's place and used it freely for years while I never booked it for myself. I even paid for a new dock last summer without taking credit. But now, the lake house was center stage, and I had the script. I waited for Memorial Day weekend, when the whole family usually gathered there. It had been tradition for over a decade with barbecues, bonfires, kids fishing, and adults getting tipsy. I loved it, but hadn't been invited in 3 years. This time, I didn't need an invite, I just needed to show up. 3 days before the weekend, I filed paperwork to restrict access to my half of the property, thanks to a little-known clause in the deed that allowed for partitioning if there was a conflict. My lawyer made sure it was airtight. I wasn't blocking them from using the house, I just required a co-owner agreement. Tara, of course, hadn't been paying attention to any legal mail, too used to me being the nice Eli. Friday morning, I drove up early, unlocked the house, and parked my truck sideways in the driveway so no one else could park. Then I waited. Around noon, 3 cars showed up, my sister, Tara, my mom, plus kids and spouses. They were laughing until they saw me. Tara stepped out first and said, "You're here?" I grinned and said, "It's Memorial Day. Thought I'd enjoy the lake." She came right up to me, arms crossed, saying they'd planned to stay and Mom would have the master. I told her, without being harsh, that it'd be a problem since the house required co-owner review. She would have seen the notice if she'd opened her mail. She looked confused. My sister jumped in, already annoyed, saying not to be dramatic and that they'd been coming there forever, not just because I missed a dinner. I raised my hand, keeping it calm, and said, "It wasn't just one dinner, not about the dinner. It's about respect, something this family stopped giving me a while ago." My mom finally approached, her voice quiet, saying, "Eli, honey, we didn't mean to. Hey, I never meant to hurt you. It's just that things got really hectic, you know how life gets." I looked at her and just almost, let my guard down. But then, all the time she backed my sister's mean behavior popped back into my head. Like when she brushed off being left out as if it were some kind of mix-up, or when she played mediator by telling me to let things slide over and over. "Yeah, I know exactly how it is," I told her. "That's why I'm here now. This place isn't just a free-for-all vacation home anymore. If you want in, we need a new agreement. We'll share the upkeep, take turns using it. Or," I shrugged, "we sell it." "You wouldn't dare," she snapped, voice going up an octave. "You'd ruin a family tradition over what? Feelings?" I locked eyes with her, steady. "No," I said, "you already wrecked the family part. I'm just finalizing the paperwork." They tried yelling, pleading, laying on the guilt. Mom got teary-eyed, my sister called me selfish, and Tara even threatened to sue. But it didn't faze me. I had everything backed up, messages, receipts, deed clauses, and all the silence that had held me back was gone. Clarity took its place, cold and necessary. Eventually, they all left, throwing a few more words my way. But I just stood there on the porch until their cars vanished down the gravel road. Then I went inside, cracked open a beer, and settled into Grandma's old rocking chair for a bit. That night, I started a fire in the pit out back and watched the sparks fly up into the night sky, just like they did on the 4th of July. And for the first time in a long while, I really felt at home. But the real kicker came the next morning because I wasn't finished. I had one last thing to send. Once they saw it, they'd get that the real fallout was just starting. The next day, I woke up to the sound of birds and nothing else. No kids yelling on the dock, no loud music from the porch, and none of my sister's overcooked bacon smell. Just peace and quiet. It was almost spooky how calm it was, and I loved it. I made coffee, strolled down to the water barefoot, and watched the morning mist rise like steam from a boiling secret. I was deep in thought but not sad, just focused and determined. What happened the night before was drawing a line. Now, it was time to make that line permanent. Before heading back to the city, I stopped at the local post office and handed over a thick envelope addressed to our family lawyer. Inside was the last piece, my decision to sell my half of the lake house. Not just to anyone, but to an out-of-state couple I'd already checked out. They were older, no kids, no drama, just looking for a quiet summer spot. I even sweetened the deal if they'd agree to one condition: put up a gate. Nothing too big, just enough to mark their territory and keep family from accidentally dropping by like they own the place. The envelope didn't just have the sale papers, it also had my see you later letter to the family. I took my time writing it over a couple of nights. Didn't want to be mean, just honest, brutally honest. Part of it went like this. To everyone who forgot about me, maybe you didn't realize it, but over the years, I became a ghost in this family. Not 'cause I drifted, but because you pushed me out with your ignoring, your silence, and those smug looks. I showed up, thinking I still mattered, playing the helper, the giver, just the quiet one at the table. I didn't ask for much, just a seat and a little kindness. But you made it clear, I'm not family, just a resource, a wallet, a joke. So now I'm taking the hint. No more worrying about whether you'll forget to invite me. No more eye rolls when I show up or whispers in the kitchen when I'm not there. I'm out. I'm not angry, not out for revenge. I'm just done. This house was the last tie to a sense of belonging, and now I've let it go. The new owners are nice, they'll look after it. And don't stress, they won't put up with surprise guests, not even on holidays. Consider this your official notice, I'm off the grid for any future guilt trips or group chats. Wish you all the best, really. But from here on out, it's all about my peace. 3 days later, my phone blew up with missed calls, voicemails, and a ton of texts that went from confused to panicked to downright angry in no time. My sister, who hadn't had a kind word for me in over a year, suddenly had plenty to say. Stuff like, "You're breaking Mom's heart, and you're acting like a child." My cousin Tara sent a wall of text too. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And hit the notification bell to stay updated with more crazy real-life stories happening around you. Of all the messages that began with, "Are you seriously selling the house?" and ended with, "You'll regret this," the one that really hit home was from my mom. It was just one sentence: "Why are you doing this to us?" I stared at it for ages, almost replying. I typed out a few things, some sharp, some gentle, and one just said, "Because you let them." But I erased them all because deep down, she already knew. A week later, the house was sold, and the new owners moved in. My family tried to stop it, but because Tara hadn't kept up with her share of the maintenance taxes and I had majority rights on the deed thanks to a little-known clause I had used through my LLC, they couldn't do anything about it. Legally, financially, emotionally, it was over. Summer came and went, and they ended up renting a lake Airbnb a few towns away. I saw their photos on my cousin's Instagram, same forced smiles, same vibe of pretending nothing had changed. But it had. The next time they needed a favor, there was no more Eli to call, no silent helper to bail them out, no wallet with feelings like they once called me behind my back on a hot mic during a group Zoom I wasn't supposed to hear. While they struggled to adjust, I was building something better, a life where I wasn't invisible. I found new friends who saw me, appreciated me, laughed with me, and never made me beg for a seat at the table. It wasn't about revenge, it was about freedom. But don't get me wrong, there was another twist. 2 months after the house sale wrapped up, something interesting happened at work. My company launched a new mentorship program, a paid gig for folks looking to start over in IT and project management. And guess who applied? Tara. She had no clue her application would end up on my desk, and she definitely didn't expect the little note I stapled to her rejection letter, just 6 words, "Maybe take the hint next time." Weeks went by and were quieter than I expected. No more calls, no more texts. It was like after years of being dismissed silently, the silence finally became mutual. And for once, I didn't have to fix it. I stopped checking their social media. I took myself off the last family email threads. My phone stayed quiet, and my mind was clearer than it had been in years. But clarity doesn't mean peace comes easy. Sometimes, I lay awake wondering if I took things too far, if I should have just kept being the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who bit his tongue for the sake of a fragile family image. That guilt was like an old jacket, familiar, even weirdly comforting. But guilt, I realized, is what manipulators use when they can't control you anymore. It was tough to shake off, but I did because something else started to grow: dignity, a sense of boundaries, a strange but welcome pride from finally choosing myself over people who never would have chosen me. Work got better too. I got promoted. Turns out, when you're not constantly drained by toxic family drama, your brain can thrive. I finally took that solo trip to Kyoto I'd been putting off. Spent 2 weeks wandering through bamboo forests and sipping matcha on quiet balconies. I didn't post about it, didn't announce it to the world. I just lived it for myself. The final thread unraveled on Thanksgiving. Usually, it was at my parents' house, a big deal with stuffing recipes from grandma's old notes, my dad's dry turkey, and the usual fights over who gets the best seats by the fire. If I was invited, I'd be stuck at the end of the kids' table or in a folding chair by the door. No one really noticed when I stopped going a few years back. But this year, things felt different. That morning, there was a knock at my door. It was my dad. I hadn't seen him in nearly a year. He looked older, a bit thinner. His once dark hair was more gray. He was holding a dish covered in foil. His eyes were bloodshot, not from crying, I think, but from life finally making him face his choices. "Can I come in?" he asked. I didn't answer, just stepped aside. He sat at my kitchen table and put the dish down. He didn't offer it, didn't explain it. Just stared at the wood grain as if it held answers. "Your mother's not doing well," he finally said. I nodded. That happens when you lose control over people. He flinched, maybe at my words, maybe at how calmly I said them. "She's sorry, Eli. She says." Every day, I handed him a glass of water and sat down across from him. She had plenty of time to tell me face to face. He looked ready to argue, but then he let out a sigh and admitted, "You were right to leave." That caught me off guard. He went on, saying he told her we should have done things differently, that it was wrong to treat me like an outsider in my own family. Apparently, he tried talking to my sister, but she thinks I'm just being overdramatic and holding on to a grudge. I chuckled, more out of disbelief than anything else. Of course, she'd think that. She's not doing too great herself, her Etsy business folded, and now she's crashing at their place. Mom's really stressed out. Then he finally looked at me, like really looked. He said he wasn't there to guilt trip me but to admit something. That I wasn't the one who ditched the family, they let me go and just assumed I'd never push back. The silence hung between us. Then he said, "I read your letter." I raised an eyebrow. "The one you sent to the lawyer." He forwarded it to me after the house was sold. I read it 3 times and cried each time. I didn't know what to say. "You're a better man than I ever gave you credit for." He added, "I'm sorry it took losing the house and you for me to see it." Surprisingly, I believed him. There was something genuine in his voice, no show, just exhausted honesty. I got up, went to the fridge, and brought out a pumpkin pie I picked up the day before. I cut us each a slice and said, "No turkey, but it's got real whipped cream." He smiled a bit. We didn't talk much after that, just ate together, 2 guys with too much past and no clear path forward. But it was something. Not a full fix, not even a reconciliation, but a start. And I made it clear, if things were going to change, it would be on my terms. No more appeasing, no more playing the supporting role in my own life. A few days later, I got a handwritten letter from Mom. I read it twice and then set it aside. I wasn't ready to reply. Maybe I never would be. Forgiveness doesn't happen on cue, and it definitely needs change to back it up. As weeks went by, I found myself moving into winter with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Real peace. Peace I earned. Then, just before Christmas, a text came through. Not from my sister or Tara, but from Liam, my nephew. It was a video message. "Hey, Uncle Eli," he said, grinning with a gap-toothed smile into the camera. "Mom says we aren't supposed to talk to you, but I miss you." I chuckled when he added, "I told her that's dumb. I hope you're okay. I'm building another Lego spaceship. It's got 3 engines this time." In the background, I heard my sister's voice shouting, "Liam, give me that phone." The video cut off. I watched it a bunch of times. My chest ached, not out of anger, but sadness. Sadness for him, for the mess he was caught up in. The exclusion cycle, the silent treatment used as a weapon. He didn't deserve that. So, I sent him a video back. "Hey, bud," I said with a smile. "That spaceship sounds awesome. I bet it's the fastest in the galaxy. I miss you too, and I'm here if you ever need me, no matter what anyone says." I didn't hear back, but that was all right. I meant what I said. The goal wasn't to hurt them back. It was about stopping the hurt they caused me, about setting boundaries not to punish, but to protect. And maybe, just maybe, the next generation won't grow up feeling invisible. They'll know it's okay to say no, to draw lines, to walk away from love that's only there when it's convenient. As for me? I'm good. Got myself a new place, smaller, cozier, with a real fireplace and a nice front porch. I host game nights with friends now, cook dinners without worrying about being judged. I laugh more, sleep better, and when old photos from family gatherings pop up on my phone, with me standing off to the side, half smiling, half hoping, I just swipe past them. Not out of bitterness, just moving on.